All right, welcome to another episode of For the Health of It. I'm your host, Corian K. Paget, and I have with me today Coach Trey Kilgore at Lipscomb University. He is an assistant strength coach. Coach, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Trey Kilgore, assistant at Lipscomb University. Been there for almost a year now. Made a few stops along the way, and I currently work with men's tennis, women's tennis, and all of the track and field events and races.
Okay. All right, Coach. Quick question. Well, you don't have to answer to this one if you don't want to show any bias, but what's your favorite sport to work with out of those ones?
Man, I get that question from my athletes a lot. And it's not trying to be a politically correct answer, but each one is different and special in their own way. I've worked with football at a lot of stops in my previous institutions, just in my career, and so my throwers, on my track and field team, they move a lot of weight, they get hyped in the weight room. Okay. And kind of reminds me of those days of training football. But I've learned so much from these kids, more than they've probably learned from me, that every time I step in and work with a new team or a new group of athletes, I can't really pick favorites because I'm an open book. I'm always trying to learn. But it's always fun,
okay.
No matter who I get.
Okay, that's what I like to hear, Coach, man. That's cool. So, Coach, if you could, please tell us what it's like being a strength coach on the college level.
Oh, man. It's something that I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid. Maybe not at the college level, knowing, what level I wanted to work at. But I remember I went to some baseball camps at Auburn when I was a kid.
Okay.
My dad asked me, what was your favorite part? And he was expecting to hear, the hitting or the pitching or whatever.
Right.
I was about 12 years old, and I told him my favorite part was doing the speed and agility drills.
Okay. And
he kind of scratched his head, and it got him thinking. And so from there, he suggested I should look into exercise science.
Okay.
And to fast forward to where I am today, I started in college in strength and conditioning as an undergrad intern at my alma mater, Berry College.
Okay.
And I've worked at 8 schools since, and I've always stayed in the college sector. It's awesome because I think it's at that critical point in a student athlete's life where they're still very moldable. I think your relationship with the athlete can have a very large impact.
True.
But there's also a sense of maturity there to where, that you're not having to deal with some of this other things that they might be going through when they're younger.
Right.
There's a little bit more independence. I think high school is a great field because you really get them when they're fresh, so there's not, a lot of bad motor pattern habits necessarily.
Right.
But there's also, I enjoy working with my kids and my coaches, and so no parents and no extracurricular activities. I really like where I'm locked in, and then looking at the professional side, I could see myself working with professional athletes maybe at some point in my career, but that's not really a burning desire at this point. I know it's a little bit... It's just a different dynamic because there's a little bit more give and take, and there's a lot more outside influences at that level. But all of them are fun and all of them are great. But I really found college strength and conditioning to be my passion.
Okay.
That's really what drives me to get up and go to work every day.
All right. That works, Coach. That works. So you were an exercise phys major in undergrad?
Yeah, I was exercise science major the whole time. Then I double majored in a couple things and ended up dropping them. I tried economics. That did not work out well. And then I actually minored in Spanish. I was a double major in Spanish for a little while and dropped it down to a minor.
Okay. All right. So you said you knew basically from a young age that you wanted to get into the field of strength and conditioning. Did you always know that it was called strength and conditioning, or did you just think, man, I want to work with weights and train these guys?
I knew I wanted to work with athletes. I was an athlete my whole life growing up, and I played baseball in college. Okay. And my senior year, I tore my hip, my left hip, and the summer before my senior year, I had surgery to repair it.
Okay.
And that got me to hang up the cleats because it was too late of the surgery and too shallow of a time window, and I wasn't going to stay a fifth year. So that last year, when I was in the rehab process, I started looking into internships and stuff because I knew I still wanted to be around athletics.
Right. And
physical therapy, occupational therapy, that's what a lot of my classmates did. It's just too slow for me. Right. You know, I can't do that. That's not the way I'm wired. Right. Great feels, but just not who I am. And I got into an internship, and I fell in love with it like right from day one. Had a great mentor, Nathan Masters, who just recently left that school. Great guy, and he kind of showed me what it was like to be a strength coach at that level.
Oh man, that's awesome, Coach. Man, I'm glad the field needs guys like you, man. I think you're very knowledgeable and caring about your athletes, as you said earlier. So I want to ask you, Coach, I'm working on a series also, if you don't mind being a part of it, of a 5-part series. I'm going to ask different coaches on different levels about what, in their opinion, makes a good coach. So I want to hear what you think. You can throw stuff at the wall, and then we'll circle back. I'll write down a few notes of what you say, and we'll try to jot it all down. So what, in your opinion, makes a good coach?
Okay. Yeah, I think coaching and teaching are two sides of the same coin. So I think you have to be an educator as a coach. Mm-hmm. And the level of that education, you know, the degree to how much you educate an athlete in strength and conditioning, and then the influence you have outside of that, I think is what kind of defines you. You know, there's no key performance indicator that you can say, you know, this person's bad or this person's good, other than looking at who they've worked with and how they've changed and had an impact on their lives. And I'm getting to the point now. I'll be 29 next month.
Okay.
And you know, I'm still pretty early on in this career, like 6-7 years in. Okay. But I look around and I'm starting to, you know, get some of those athletes who are getting into their first jobs, or even some of them are starting families.
Right.
And they'll reach out occasionally, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is the impact that you can have on them. Because then this is what we tell, you know, when recruits come in. But you can come back to me 4 years after graduation and be like, hey, coach, you know, I can still clean 315 pounds, or I can back squat 500. You know, that's great.
Right.
But we'd rather hear things like, hey, coach, I'm making mortgage payments on a house, or hey, coach, I got a promotion at that job doing some of these things that I learned here working with you, or hey, coach, I'm about to start a family, and, you know, these are some of the things I'm going to work on with my kids and with my spouse. You know, those are the golden moments that you really want to hang on to.
Right.
And I'm starting to get at that point now, as I'm approaching 30, where some of those athletes are getting to those stages in their life. You know, they've moved on, and, you know, real stuff is hitting them, and they're recognizing their preparation and their training as an athlete goes beyond the weights. It goes beyond the stats that they're trying to put up in their specific sport. You know, it's what they're doing.
Right.
It's what they're doing, showing up on time, wearing the right thing, working hard, giving their best, little things like that. So I think a coach that puts others before themselves, mm-hmm. you know, and is a good educator, is invested, and then has a great influence on the people they're around. That's what's gonna define them at the end of the day.
Okay. All right, Coach, that's what's up, man. So I got the main two notes I got from that is must be a teacher and must put others first.
Yeah, those are great starting points right there.
Okay. All right, Coach. Next, I want to ask you, do you have any advice for any of these younger guys that may be listening, or girls that may be listening, that aspire to be a strength coach or aspire to be a coach in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing you can do, besides like developing yourself, constantly learning, mm-hmm. is doing the best job where you are at. Okay. Every single opportunity I've ever had in this field has not come from me applying to someplace randomly. It has been through a reference or someone in my network contacting me and saying, hey, such and such job is open. Are you interested? Because if you are, you should apply. Okay. And that's been instrumental for me. When I was at Colorado State, I worked with Ryan Davis. He is now head strength coach of football performance in Maryland.
Okay.
And I just remember him kind of instilling that into me, and I've had numerous wonderful mentors, Coach Ferris at Sanford University and a whole bunch of others. I don't want to go down the whole list, but all of them kind of driving home, doing a good job of where you're at, and then the opportunities will come.
Right.
It's not always on the timeline that you want, but when it comes, it's the right fit. It'll work out.
Oh, that's what's up, Coach. Man, that is good stuff right there, man. All right, Coach. So, quick question: do you have any pro athletes that you've worked with, or any of your athletes that went on to become pro?
Yeah, I'm currently at Lipscomb with track and field and tennis. I've only been there for less than a year, so nobody's moved on to pursue professional dreams just yet. But at some of the other stops that I've made, we've had a couple athletes who are blessed with both the ability and the work ethic to continue their talents and get paid for it. I've spent a very brief amount of time at Colorado State the summer of 2016. A great time there, but Michael Gallup, who is I think a wide receiver for the Cowboys right now.
Right.
A couple of guys like him, Olabisi Johnson, who is with the Vikings maybe. I haven't been keeping track with the NFL too much lately, but a couple of guys there who I got to work very briefly with. And then a lot of my stops, especially my full-time, paid employment career has been at Division III and Division II schools. Right. So while some do move on to the professional world, it's a little less common at that level.
Okay.
So right now, I mean, my biggest focus is developing who I got right in front of me, and if they make it onwards, that's awesome. I have yet to have the opportunity where one moves on and then comes back and seeks out training. I'm looking forward to that day.
Okay.
Because I'll always be a resource to them. We got a couple throwers right now. Everybody's season just ended with the whole COVID-19 thing that's going on. But
right.
I got a couple throwers that even if they aren't going to go professional one day, I told them, like, look, you guys did a great job with me. If you ever want to come back and train with me, you're welcome to do that.
Okay. All right, Coach. I do a little track and field also here where I'm at.
Yes, sir.
So I got a question for you, man. What are your throwers throwing right now? Do you have any freshman throwers?
No, man. We're in a super unique spot. So each school builds their track and field team differently. They've got a semi-new staff, new guy at the helm this year, and I kind of came in with that new staff. Okay. And both the new guy and the previous head coach, they built a lot of their team around long distance.
Okay.
So that's where we have a lot of our kids. So our throwers, I only had 3 this year, and they were all seniors. And then one of them was a hybrid.
Okay.
He was a long jumper / jab thrower.
Okay. All right.
So we don't have any freshmen this year, but I think we got some coming in that I'm looking forward to working with.
Okay. What those 3 seniors? What are their marks, if you don't mind me asking?
I could tell you their weights. I think the best that we had was like an upper 13, around 14. They're great hard workers. They're
right.
Great kids. Some of the top numbers in our conference are, I think, in the 18 to 19 mark, maybe even a 21 there in the weight.
Oh wow!
They go out. They were setting PRs every time they went out and threw, which was awesome to see.
Man. That is awesome.
Yeah, and I don't really worry about the competition so much because when you're out there, it's just you in that cage and you're chucking.
Right.
Right. So they did a great job and worked hard, and they kept getting better, which is what you want to see.
Okay. Well, you mentioned the team has a lot of distance running on it, Coach. So I got some long distance guys that are kind of afraid of the weight room. Can you expound on why it's important for sports performance wise and possibly injury prevention wise? Why these guys? Why these long distance guys need to get in the weight room?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just getting a common understanding of, I'm not going to try and turn you into a power lifter. I'm not even going to do necessarily a powerlifting motion with you.
Right.
That's a great sport in and of itself. But getting a long distance athlete to understand that, one, if I can help take away anything like shin splints, tendonitis in your Achilles, your patella, whatever, common areas that you see, any sort of hip irritation, anything that I can do in the weight room to help alleviate that. We tell kids when they come in, the number one priority is to keep you safe while training. Number two is to make sure you're safe as possible while you're out there training in your sport. And performing your sport. And then the third one is developing a strong work ethic and character. All those are they're symbiotic. They're all on the same level, but really, driving home that injury reduction factor. You can't necessarily prevent everything, but you do like to reduce the likelihood of it. Driving that point home is huge, but I'll tell you, Lipscomb was a great opportunity for me when I came in. I got there August of 2019, right. And the weight room situation with the long distance team, it was something that we were looking to move forward with, get more heavily involved. Okay. And so I saw it as a great opportunity to just get these kids to enjoy it, make it fun. So I don't think we did like an actual squat form. I could go back and look at our training, but we did like dumbbell deadlifts from the ground where you use a single deadlift, you set it on one of the heads, and you're talking about maybe 20 to 30 degrees of flexion in the knees and the hips, not much, right. And just getting them comfortable with grooving really good muscle patterns. So with any athlete, everybody's a human, right? Right, we move differently. We train. We need to train a little bit differently, but we got to be able to move properly. So teaching them the basics of a hinge, a push, a pull, and a squat, and then how to move weight on one leg, how to stabilize on one leg. Same thing with one arm, and flex, rotate, extend, brace, all of that. That's really kind of the starting block that we did, and immediately the kids just saw results, and we had a really, really good cross-country season in the fall. Men's and women's both won their conference. And then, it was great, man. I've got a great head coach who gives me a ton of free reign in the weight room, and great communication there. And then the kids bought in pretty quickly. It's on them. I give the blueprints. I try to make it exciting and fun, and then the rest is in their hands, and they took it and ran with it. Okay. But we did that, and then the men, they actually won, but they were not favored to win, and they stole it by 1 point.
Oh, man, so that was awesome.
That was pretty exciting to see, and it kind of just drives the point home of like everything you do matters in your preparation process, because if you had missed a few sets or reps, who knows how that would have turned out when you went out on that meet day, on that race day.
Man, that's awesome, Coach. So, man, that is awesome, for real.
Yeah.
Man, goodness gracious. All right, so Can you tell what you did in the weight room with the throwers? Can you
Okay.
Oh no, excuse me. You said what you did with the distance team. Can you tell what you did with the throwers?
The throwers, yes. The throwers, I'll be honest with you, man, they were my guinea pigs this year. I told them, I was like, look, I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna make sure you're okay, but we're gonna hit the weight room hard. So we did we got there. Really, they started in September, because at the end of August, they get into school. You got 1 week to acclimatize to classes and stuff like that. So in September, we really started training hard. And if you look at September, October, and November, and then like half of December, you got about 3.5 months to work with them, or 100 to 115 days. Okay. So looking at that, it's like, all right, I know that indoor season meet is 150 days out, or whatever, the first one. So we got plenty of time to just kind of build them up. And then the coach, our throwers coach, specified to me that he really just wanted to see them hit their biggest numbers in outdoor, so I could crush them all the way through indoor. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Okay. So we started with a real general linear approach for about that first month. Mixed in with some APRE, auto-regulated progressive resistance exercise. So basically, they would train to failure once or twice in a session with a designated movement, and then we would adjust their training max based on that. And so we did that for a couple weeks, and then I've always wanted to do this with a group of athletes, and since I only had 3 guys and it was real controllable, we did a conjugate style of training.
Right.
So 2 max effort days and 2 dynamic effort days, and then we would throw some repetition effort stuff in there as well. And man, I mean, we saw some incredible stuff. Our guy, his name is JJ.
Mm-hmm.
He was a grad transfer from TCU football.
Okay.
And he only bench pressed maybe like 315, 330-ish flat, and then with a block on his chest, maybe like 365. And we had him bench pressing 415 in about 2 months.
Wow!
So he made a huge jump there, and then just clowning around. Really, I mean, he works really hard, and we did a combine test towards the end of our fall semester,
right.
And he did 225 for like 21 or 22 reps,
man,
something like that, and that was cool. But he kept training really hard, and then come springtime, he hit 225 for 30 reps, which is like, those are NFL numbers, man.
Right,
I wasn't expecting that. Like, we looked at it. He played defensive line, and I think your top defensive linemen are hitting 31 or 32 reps at the combine. So it's like, look, man. You're moving weights that professional athletes are moving,
exactly.
And you're moving it well. And we took him from his knees were in real bad shape, his hips were in real bad shape. I'm very proud of this young man because he came in, did the extra work, did what he needed to get better, and he went from not being able to even squat parallel, struggling with like 225 on the bar, to box squatting 565. Mm-hmm. We were getting ready for a 650 plus squat here towards the end of the semester before things got shut down.
Right.
Dude was just an animal and a hard worker and a great kid. But you know, I brag on him because he's a great guy. But another one of our athletes, KJ, he worked really hard. Same thing with Brandon, the other guy, Brandon, the other thrower. I mean, all of them. You're looking at. With this style of training, with conjugate training, I mean, they're setting PRs every single week.
Right.
Because it's a very unique style of training. It's a lot of fun, and there's not a whole big need to deload because of the way you train. So they're looking forward to setting a new max in various ways each week. So you kind of build that competitive mentality when they come in because they know that they're going to compete against each other in some way or another. And if they can't compete against each other, they can at least compete against themselves and try and beat something else that they had done before.
Man, dang, that's crazy, man. See, they're moving weight then, man. You said the guy's bench pressing 225 30 times.
30 times, yeah. That's not what we trained for. It was
exactly.
Kind of like
exactly.
It's kind of like a side effect, you know. His strength endurance went up.
Wow, that is crazy. All right, Coach. Let me ask you. You said you work with tennis also.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. My wife played at Alabama A&M. Her and her sister.
Okay.
So they're gonna appreciate this section, man. Can you and their dad? Their dad loves tennis, and he used to love lifting weights, not so much now. But
this is her dad?
Yeah, this is her dad. Yeah. My dad still goes a little heavy. But her dad he tapered off a little bit. But can you go into the training of tennis athletes and what you like to do with them?
Yeah, they're very similar. When I came in to what cross country, like with them, you know, just wanting to build a really solid foundation.
Right.
It's different, you know, with team sports compared to track and field. In track and field, you get to truly peak. You know, you get to truly see
your best athlete. Yeah,
your best athlete. And you're not competing. You don't have to worry about someone else. So wins and losses are a lot more subjective.
Right.
You're not performing against someone else. It's just against yourself.
Right.
In track and field. So with tennis, we did a couple different things. Again, blessed incredibly by both of the coaches I have. Mm-hmm. They gave me free reign. With the men and women in the fall, in their off season, we took a block periodization approach. You know, general physical prep for about the first month. Second month, we moved into a max strength block, and then third month was kind of power explosiveness phase. And then you send them home with a general strength block over Christmas break.
Okay.
When they came back, the men and women started out kind of for the first couple of weeks doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Which was I don't like to use the word maintenance because I think when you go into the weight room, you're either getting better or worse.
Right.
I don't like a maintenance mentality. So they would come in and train 2, maybe 3 times a week, and it was to progress or maintain what we had gained in the fall. But we were noticing some soft tissue injuries, especially on the men's side. So we decided to switch things up a little bit. We did a microdosing approach, which was a lot of fun. And I took that from Corey Schlesinger, who at the time when I stole it was at Stanford. He's now with the Phoenix Suns. He's the men's basketball coach for the Phoenix Suns, strength coach, men's basketball strength coach for them. But the idea is, if you look at training volume, instead of having 2 really hard sessions in the week where you're not really getting everything out of your athletes, bring them in and distribute that volume over the week.
Right.
5 to 6 sessions, but you're in there working 1 or 2 things, so you're done in 15 to 20 minutes.
Gotcha.
Tops.
Okay.
So, you talk to the coaches and you sell it. It's like, hey, you tell an athlete that you're going to go and you're going to hit backhands and nothing but backhands for 30 minutes.
Right.
That athlete is probably going to have the best backhand session of their life because they know that's all they're going to do, and then they're going to be done for the day.
Right.
Well, if I tell an athlete that comes into the weight room, hey, today is a general complex day.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get your muscles warm. We're going to get you feeling good. We're going to hit you with some, kettlebell circuit. You're going to do a squat, a hinge, a lunge, and then a military press. You're going to go through it 5 times with this weight and this many sets, and that's it. And then they move on. We saw our soft tissue issues go away.
Okay.
And then you saw guys asking for more, which was awesome.
Man, that's
and then we ended up so we did that microdosing for a little while, and then right towards the end before things got called off with the virus, I had half the team lifting conjugate in season, guys who were not playing as much or were playing on lower lines.
Right.
They were coming in 4 to 5 days a week to get extra training in, and training maximally in season.
Wow.
And they're seeing the results. They're hitting the ball harder. They're moving better. And then the older guys, the ones who are a little bit more beat up, they continued with the microdosing approach, and it was working out. It was doing good.
All right, that's what's up, man. You said this a couple times. You said coaches giving you free reign to work with the athletes. So I want to ask you about that, and I also want to ask you about providing. I remember when I was interning at Southern Miss, Coach Woodfin mentioned how we provide a service to the coaches and the athletes. So can you talk about the sport coach relationship with the strength coach, and also providing the service to that coach and to that athlete?
Yeah, it's huge, man. You gotta know your role as a strength and conditioning coach, and no matter how good you are, how much you know, you are there as the right hand man or woman to whatever program you are. You're not the helm of your ship until you're in that weight room, and everything that's going on in that weight room or speed agility training session, whatever. Right. That's your responsibility, right?
Right.
But when it comes to the sport coach and that team itself, they're the chiefs. They're the one in charge, and you are to make yourself in every way an asset to them. You're there to make their job easier. You're there to help them accomplish their set of core values, their mission. So that's really important right at the start. Right. Any place I've been to, whenever I get working with a new coach, is asking them, what's your mission and vision for this team? And then kind of what are your core values that you center a program around? Okay. And that doesn't have to change you as a coach, as a person, but it definitely gives you a great perspective of what they see, what they demand, what they want from their athletes, and how you can be that asset. And the communication is huge throughout that whole process. And then when it comes to being a service or an asset to the athletes, like, you're there for them. Right. You wouldn't have the job without them. You wouldn't have the job without them. This field would not exist without them. And you were there to keep them safe and to make training effective. Okay. It's important. You got to be obviously the boss in the room. Right. But it's not a coaching to athletes. It's a coaching with athletes mentality. I take that from Brett Bartholomew, who's he's a guy in our field who's written Conscious Coaching, great book. Okay. but it's an antiquated, it's an old school style of thinking of like you bark orders and the athletes follow. That it just doesn't fly in today's day and age. You got to get to know the person. You got to build relationships with who you're with, and then you got to figure out the best way to get the most out of them,
right?
And that way they can get the most out of you. Okay. It's something where you're going to have to make some changes in your coaching style and approach because every person is different, and you're going to have to adapt to the dynamic environment in front of you. And once you're able to recognize that, develop a plan, and go forward with it, that's when you're going to see tremendous growth, both you as a coach and in the athletes themselves.
All right, Coach, man. How much I owe you after this, man? Because you're dropping dropping bars, man. Oh, this is great information, Coach. So I want to ask you about advice to aspiring young coaches, Coach. There's a lot of coaches going on in here, but if you would give a couple of advice to the younger guys and gals that may be listening.
Yeah, I mean, as we talked earlier, making sure you do as good a job as where you're at is number one. I would also say something that I wish I had known early on in my career was reading more. I got my first. If you look at the college strength and conditioning field, you typically take the path of you go to undergrad, you get an exercise science degree, you intern for 1 or 2 years at some big name schools, and then you get a GA position somewhere.
Right.
It's typically how it works. And then after the GA, maybe you get a part-time or small full-time assistant job. 5-6 years go by, you get a director gig. My path is a little bit unorthodox. I got a GA spot right out of college.
Okay.
And I was a head strength coach as a GA up at the NAI school in Joliet, Illinois. And I got my CSCS right out of college, and I thought I knew way more than I really did. And the more I learn now, the more I realize I don't know anything. I mean, you got a great idea about some stuff. I'm learning a lot of things. I'm always reading. But when I was there, I basically did not use those 2 years to the fullest because I could have been reading all this other stuff.
Right.
There were so many things, so many resources, and so many materials available. I mean, the internet's a wonderful place. There's so many things that you can get for free. And then on top of that, networking the right way. It's not calling someone up, getting their number, hoping to get a job someday. It's visiting a place, having done your research ahead of time. Making sure that when you go and spend time with a coach, you're adding value to their time. You're not taking away from them.
Right.
So I know I went up there. I went for a great clinic one time at Northwestern. When I was a GA, went one strength clinic, and that was it. And I look back, and I'm like, man, what was I doing? There's so many other schools in that area I could have visited, talked to, could have had interns, a lot of different things. But that's hindsight's 20/20. You look back and it's like, okay, obviously, like I'm learning from these experiences. And so now, especially in my last 2 spots where I was a director, I want to take as many opportunities that I can, within reason, being conscious of time, to take an opportunity to travel places and visit. Go to schools, talk to coaches, meet them on their turf, see how they do things.
Right.
And you'll never be, or you'll always be surprised, 2, 3, 5 years later, where that opportunity might lead.
Right.
So, that's big. Read more, read often, read resources that are outside strength and conditioning.
Okay.
And then when it comes to networking and getting to know people, doing it the right way. Okay. Doing your research ahead of time, learning about where a coach has been. If they've got any sort of particular specialty in the field, you might have a coach who's a specialist in reflexive performance reset, or a coach who's a specialist in Olympic weightlifting. Okay. Getting to know that stuff ahead of time and having a prepared list of questions when you go and visit a site is huge. It's huge.
Okay. Man, that's good. That is good. Coach, we're going to start wrapping it up in a little bit, man, but a lot of people I know this because I follow you on Instagram and I think maybe Facebook, but you're a big Star Wars fan.
Oh, man, huge Star Wars fan.
All right. So, with that being said, Coach, What is your favorite Star Wars?
Star Wars movie?
Yes.
Oh man, I catch so much flack for this, but I'm a big Episode 1 guy.
Okay, Phantom Menace.
It was, the Phantom Menace.
So you were, I just realized you were younger than me when you said you were 29. I'm 31, so. I was in the 4th grade at that time, Coach.
4th grade when they came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it came out in 99, so I was 8, so I was like 3rd grade-ish movie.
Okay.
Yeah, or maybe at the end of 2nd grade. But I remember when it came out, it was one of the first, I think it was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters.
Same here.
Yeah, obviously, because we weren't around from the 70s.
Right,
But it came out, and I thought, ever since, I think Darth Maul's like top villain all time.
All time.
He's so cool. He doesn't say anything, and he's just he's a bad Joker, man. He's cool.
Okay.
So that was big, and then it started a whole new saga. It brought the series back to life, and say what you will about Episode 2 and 3, but I enjoy the prequels. Right. I like them.
Okay. Now, well, let me ask you about the sequel trilogy. Then, what do you think about those?
I go with the J.J. Abrams train. I like 7 and 9. Was not a big fan of 8.
Okay.
I thought it was still good. When you look at your own craft of strength and conditioning or just coaching in general,
right.
you see so much effort and work that goes into it, and then if somebody says a negative word, it's like, oh my gosh, well, you don't know what I went through.
Right.
So it's really hard for me to speak down on any sort of movie because I know how many thousands of people must have gone in on working on that. But I thought the story was kind of weird, and I thought the director tried to take it to a place that the fan base wasn't ready for.
You're talking about Episode 8?
Yeah, in Episode 8.
Okay.
And then I like the cheesy crowd pleasing, where they did a lot of throwbacks to Episodes 4, 5, and 6. And 7 and 9. I like that stuff.
Same here. I can agree with that, Coach. I wasn't too big of a fan of 9 or 8, but I really enjoyed Episode 7.
7 was good. Yeah, it's the best one.
I really enjoyed that one, man. I was watching the episode of South Park. I shouldn't be saying this, but they were talking about the member berries, and they're like, it's just Episode 4, New Hope, restated. But I was like, man, I loved it though. I really enjoyed Episode 7. But like you said, man, Episode 1, that being the first one we saw in theaters as kids, that really holds a special place in my heart, man.
Yeah, no, it's forever one of those that I look at it like people can hate on Jar Jar Binks all they want. I think Jar Jar Binks is great for the kids, man. Exactly. Like he's there for some comic relief.
Exactly.
Like let the dude. He gets way more grief from Star Wars fans than need be. It's a good series all around.
All right, man, Coach. I appreciate you being here with us. This is For the Health of It with Corey and K-Pad Paget, and our guest today was Coach Trey Kilgore. Appreciate you, Coach.
Thank you for your time, man.